I felt terrible because before that, menstrual stigma had never affected my life in any significant way. But that day, I realized that because I was on my periods, I was made to step back on a day that I look forward to every year.
Hey, hello everyone. I'm Manita,
Hi, I'm Pratma back again.
and we also have a very special guest today.
Hi, I'm Pearl Vika.
We all are third year medical students in NIHS, and today we have gathered to discuss a very interesting and a very important topic. Today we'll be talking about how menstruation has impacted our lives, how our lives revolved around it, and how it's important to discuss about it again and again. So can we get started?
So before starting, we would like to thank Puralvika for bringing out this topic, and it's a very important topic on discussion. We do understand it. So we have all come here to share our experiences about this and about why is it necessary to discuss on this topic too. So thanks, Puralvika, for taking our podcast into such a sensitive but such an important topic.
And I'm really thankful that you gave me this platform to speak. So, before starting the topic, I would like to emphasize on the fact that there are some parts, some countries in the world like Japan, Brazil, Fiji, and North America that actually celebrate periods. You know, they celebrate it with feasts and gifts and symbolic outfits. And some parts of UK offer free sanitary products to all the girls in primary schools to counter the effects of period stigma and period poverty. So, while there are countries like that which actually celebrate the first period of their daughters, there are also countries like ours where we are too mortified to even talk about periods. And there are still practices of Thaupadi happening in rural parts of Nepal where girls not only are restricted from entering the kitchen or religious spaces, but they are forced to live in a different shed away from their family. And while they are on their shed alone and distant from their family, they face many problems. Like there are reported cases of rapes and starvation, and even deaths due to the cold. That's why I think this topic is very important.
Right, and you know what? When you were saying that it's celebrated around the world, I had also read this article sometime before where a mom was throwing a party because her daughter had her menarche, and you know that's even when reading something like this or listening to something like this, it gives a sense of satisfaction and this joyous, this beautiful feeling that we are celebrating womanhood and the impact, the psychological impact that it can have on that girl. It's so huge. Like even that small action can actually make her more aware about these issues and help her speak about this in a more open way. Pratna, what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, right. So when when you guys are talking about like celebrating periods, I think this is such an important thing to do because many a times in our country, and when I'm saying it myself, when we're discussing about these celebrating periods thing, what happens here is that when you have your periods, most of the girls experience something which they're unknown about, or they don't even know that they're in their periods. They don't know what is happening to them. And then suddenly you get locked for 7 days inside a closed off room where you're not allowed to see your father or even your brother. And the only one that visits is your mother. And I don't know why it is this way, but our culture has that. And I think celebrating or talking openly about it and welcoming a girl who is on her periods or who has started to have it is so much important to boost her self-confidence, and she feels empowered. And that is the experience, the starting of a womanhood, which she carries for the rest of her life to become a mother. That's how she will tell her children about it. So I think this has a huge, huge, huge impact, and this is very important. And I'm so happy that I heard this from you because I was quite unknown about the celebrating thing. So thank you for sharing, guys.
Yeah, and I think today we are going to learn so many things from each other, and I want to know from Prolvika, like we as a society are somehow progressing and being more open about this, right? Even in our country, at least in the city part, there are many movements that are going around for this discussion. There are also people who ridicules those movements and those actions. Is there anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, our country has progressed a lot regarding this topic. We have come a long way. Like in cities with educated and aware families, there are no restrictions. Slowly, entering the kitchen, or there are no separate beds or bathroom for girls on their period. And myths like if you step on a river, it will run dry, or if you touch a plant, it will bear rotten fruits. Those myths have been overcome, and they have been addressed. But there are still stigmas that affect the mental health of little girls and women of different age and profession. Um, in even in developed cities and educated homes and families, like little girls lose their confidence if they have a stained skirt, or they are embarrassed to even buy pads, and they have to wrap it in a newspaper, stuff like that. So I think the thought that menstrual awareness in cities and educated homes is too mainstream and it's not required anymore. I think it's a completely wrong thought.
Yeah, right. So I think that there are bigger issues to be addressed, like domestic violence, and people who ridicule this movement or saying that, like, proud to bleed or talking about periods might not be that much of a significance than those domestic violence or rapes that are happening. We need to understand that that paramount thing or that result is ultimately from a small thought in the mind, which creates a gap between two genders, that is, male and female are different. And I think that stems from the fact that we are right from the start something which is physiologically normal to us. If we are ridiculed or if we are shamed for that thing, then that can we cannot assure that that might not amount to certain paramount things. So when we are shown as being different or being shamed, or we ourselves have a lesser of a self-esteem for something that's happening in our body, then that can also bring a distinction. So we need to know about the fact that certain mental makeup of the society comes from this issue as well. So addressing this also becomes important in the long run to fight issues like marital rape or domestic violence and such. So I think that is my personal thought on this. What do you have to say on this, Manita?
To talk about this, I think um, these moments, these discussions are never enough, because we already have been conditioned from centuries, and there are so many things that even we consider ourselves super progressive, and that we don't care about these restrictions and needs, but back in the head somewhere it has been conditioned there, and we have those ingrained in our thoughts. So I think they are not enough, and being ridiculed for it, it's completely wrong. So when Perlvika was saying about these restrictions, I remember reading in the Diplomat, the news portal of Asia Pacific, and one article has been published there in a title, "Women in Nepal Face 40 Restrictions." So, after reading that heading, I started actually counting how can I make that 40 restrictions. But I think somewhere, if we look into the past and all these superstitious beliefs that we have been following from centuries, I think they're more than that. And yes, as Puralvika said, and as you said, Prarthana, we are moving ahead, and we are doing quite good, but there's still so many things that has to be overcome. So I think while talking about restrictions, let's also add some our experiences to this. How do you guys do during your periods?
So, okay, I'll share a personal experience of mine that has really affected me. I love the festival of Bhai Tika, where you put 7-colored tika on the forehead of your brothers and celebrate love between siblings. I just love it. But one Bhai Tika, what happened was I got my periods, and I think it was my second day. So I was not allowed to participate in anything. So I had to be away from everything that was happening. And I remember I stayed on top of the stairs and looked at everyone who was celebrating, and I was just like, crying my hearts out because my brothers mean a lot to me. And I felt terrible because before that, menstrual stigma had never affected my life in any significant way. But that day, I realized that because I was on my periods, I was made to step back on a day that I look forward to every year. And I think incidences like those in childhood really gets to you even when you grow up, and it really makes you the person you become in some way or the other. Because I am still hesitant to enter the puja room of our house, or take part in religious activities or go to temples. And that part, that restriction has not changed in my family, even though the other parts, like the kitchen thing, or getting to touch your brother while they're wearing the holy thread, the janai thing, stuff like that has changed. But this part, it has still not changed. And I think, like your mom or your grandmom, you can make them aware that it's not right. You can tell them all you want that it's not fair, but you cannot force them, because that's what they've been taught all their lives. And to immediately change that, it'll be difficult for them too. So I think, like, if you really want to change that part in your house, it should start with you. And for it to start with you, also, you require a strong group of friends, who encourage each other and tell you that no, it's not wrong to enter a religious space or take part in a religious ceremony just because you're on your periods. Who tell you, no, it's not wrong to stand up against the ideas and views of your own family. Yeah.
So, talking about my experience, I choose to start right from the very start, where I started this journey. When I was probably 11 years old, I had my first period, and judging by the fact I was with my grandmother, I've been very, blessed to have a very supportive and an encouraging family. So my mother has always been supportive about this, and shunning myself for 7 days inside a room was never an option for me. I even talked to my father. I got to talk to my father because my mother was there, and she never restricted me with anything, gave the food in the kitchen itself, and I was treated pretty normally. But the distinction came when my I don't know, someone from my family, my father's side or my mother's side, came to visit me in my home. So I'm in my home, and it was because I was so freely I was left so freely in my home. When they came, I had to pretend as if I was sitting in this room all day and closing my curtains, and my mother made me do it. So she was open to all these things when we as a family were there. But when someone from outside, like my uncles or aunts, used to visit, then I had to show that I was following all the rituals, and I didn't quite understand it, but I had to do it. So that was it. And also, I was in a all girls school. So when we talk about periods, then we think that maybe all girls school might be different, that there might be a different environment, judging by the fact that there are all girls around. So, but we also had that, kind of a shame when someone bled. And I remember the day when my skirt was stained, and I had to wait for the last to exit the class last, and I still had that shame of standing up from the desk, judging by the fact that I was surrounded by all girls and there were no teachers around. I don't know how that shame got into me, but I still had that shame. And I had my friends supporting me and covering my skirt with a bag, and that was how I left the school in the end, to go home when I had my skirt stained in the period. So these are certain experiences that kind of get to you, and I don't know where this preconditioning comes from, but the normality of this physiological process, I think it has still not gotten to us, judging by the fact that we're still medical students. And also, there is a time, and I'm sorry for my long list of experiences because I wanted to share this one. So there was a time when I went to my village, and in my village there was this ritual which was being conducted. It was like a puja, and my aunt had come over and she was helping with all the housework. And she was the only one being able to do it because all of the family members were away doing some work. And then she got her periods, and then she was, without care, shunned to a different place where she had to stay somewhere else. And that was quite distressing for me. And I went there and talked about, like, why are you doing like this? So I talked to her, like, it's pretty normal to go and, like, do what you were doing before. But she relayed that I think something would, like, curse her if she does that, judging by the fact that there's puja, and she lived in a separate room away from that house where the puja was happening, where before her period she was the one looking after all the chores, and she was the one who was taking care of us. But we did not even put a little bit of consideration when she went there. So that was the thing that I felt really, really bad, and it still exists. It still exists, and even smaller scale, to the Thopadi pratha that we find in our rural villages, and it's pretty distressing. So I think we need to talk more openly about these stuffs.
Right. And the experience you shared about that stained skirt, I do have similar experience, and I remember crying so badly. And I don't know, now looking back, I don't know why I was crying, because I hadn't done anything wrong, right? It just wasn't my fault at all, but I had cried, and I came to home so embarrassed. And I have so many of these experiences. And here, I want to share one incident. It's some months before this lockdown, we had taken a program to one of the local school where we had decided that we're going to talk about different issues um, that students have to go through during their school life. And we also decided on including this menstrual hygiene, thinking that this might be a wonderful opportunity to tell them about this. And so first thing, we had to go through so many discussions before finalizing that we want to keep both girls and boys together for this discussion. So after convincing everyone, when in the program day, the students were divided into small groups, and I was in one of those groups. And we're talking about how menstruation is a taboo and how restrictions are applied. And one of the boy from the 6th standard, he told us that how he doesn't believe in any of these things, because according to him, we are his child, and if we consider God to be in a place like our parent or a guardian, how can someone like God can restrict his children from coming to his house when the children are themselves going through such difficult times? So that was so wonderful. And when I think back, if that boy of that age can think like this and can have that opinion, we all can, right? And it's just that we are not exploring, and we are not trying to understand. So I think if we all try, and we sit down and we think about this, it's so simple and it's so easy to understand. I think it's just that we are being so ignorant, and we, as you said, Pratna, like, even if we don't do any of these things, we are afraid about what society is going to say about these things, this social stigma. There are a lot of things about this, but I don't think that I'll ever be forget that boy and what he said and how beautifully he said that.
And I also want to quote one thing which I heard, that there is this belief that if a girl in her first period talks to her father, then she decreases the life of her father. And this is something pretty distressing that I've heard. And I was not in the state of understanding because I was a little child. But that fear still grows up with me. And I think it's just like, I don't know, talking medically, some kind of predisposing thing, that the anxiety that you carry along for being responsible for something, I think that should not be done to any individual. And I don't know where these taboos stem from, but are we really responsible for decreasing life of our parents just by talking to them when we have our periods?
Right. And when we hear about these things, like, we fear, right? We have this fear within us, like how much we try that we are not going to believe this. There is something back in our head that constantly says that, oh, you might be wrong, and this, what if this come true? Things like this. So I think, this is a cycle. Like, if our generation play that role to be the focal point of breaking this chain, I think a big difference can be made to the next generation of girls, and how they will grow up to have a different opinion, and how they will change all these beliefs. And then if they will never hear about it, I think that everything's going to be perfect afterwards. So, can we talk about how menstruation affect us, not only physically but also mentally? Because physically, I think we all have gone through, and we all have heard that about the severe cramps and these mood swings and everything. But when we talk about these stigmas and how we are restricted from so many things and so many places, this can also have mental impact, right? So let's talk about this.
Yeah, you're right. Menstruation does put a strain on women's mental health, whether it is due to her hormonal changes or environmental factors like these stigmas. Like from childhood only. If you stay in a skirt, you lose complete confidence, and if you're not allowed inside a puja room, or if you're not allowed to attend any religious activity, it gets to your head, and you ask yourself, "What's wrong with me?" So it really affects your mental health from childhood. And not only in childhood, like women of different ages, they have to work, right? And for work, you have to constantly worry that what if your clothes are stained, and you have to come rush to the bathroom from time to time to change your pads, and it doesn't help reduce the anxiety that we face. And there are also parts like being ridiculed on by using the term, premenstrual syndrome to any woman who's angry or frustrated or moody at some point of her time. And I think every menstruating female has heard that a jokey accusation that her bad mood is due to her menstrual cycle, and her activities are due to her raging hormones or something like that. And it's totally unfair, because premenstrual symptom is much more than just a punchline. It's not a joke. Women are actually out there facing premenstrual syndrome with uh, symptoms like low mood and anxiety and migraines, and it really affects their work and their personal relationship as well.
I want to add something here. When you're talking about this, we constantly being a part of joke. There was a research done by a company, one of the company that makes innovative period solutions. So, and that research found that 44% of the men, they admitted to having made a joke about or a comment on a partner's mood when she was on a period. And I don't think it's so shocking, or and this is something so true, right?
So, since we are discussing on mental stigma too, as I mentioned about the accusations that a girl has to face, or something that is put onto her responsibility, that if she does this, then the consequence might be that. I think something that etches from your childhood is too hard to go away, and I still, being sensitive enough to connect the dots, whenever I try to stand out with my pre-existing knowledge of this is normal, and if I have to go to a temple, or if I do something that is way out of what the society thinks should be done when a girl is on her period, and I have done it. I have went to a puja when I am on my period. I have attended my home function where all of my families were gathering. I have stayed in that same house, even if that fate was to be shifted to a neighbor's house when that ritual is happening there. I chose to stay with my family, with the condition that not saying it or not disclosing that I am on my period, but only my mother knowing it. So I had no access to sanitary pads then, because I could not go out and buy the pad and come to my family home and stay there. Because the time, if that was known, then I would be, like I had to pack my bag and go somewhere in a neighbor's house. And judging by the fact that I was in a village and not even in my own home, that would have been a very difficult thing for me to do. So it was my mother who was ever so supportive of not telling it to other family members. She used to bring clothes and she used to give it to me to be changed during the period. And then I realized that how privileged we were to have this access of this sanitary hygiene product when I had to wash those every day and like dry them. And also the mental fear that someone should not see that stain and that cloth should be, very clean. I used to like rub it very hard, and every morning I used to do that. But even after that, I was proud of what I did. Like, I stayed in the home in the puja, although no one knew it. My mother supported me. My father was also known about this. So my family is pretty, like normal about this thing. But now that fear that etches in my mind from my childhood about the consequences, what might happen, like I've done this in a puja, so I still connect the dots to all the bad happenings that have happened to me, that maybe it was because of that, like this is happening to me. So I think this is also something of a mental, makeup that comes and eventually impacts our self-esteem and our confidence, and something that stops us from living our optimal life, and something that stops us from being free from all restrictions and thought processes. And so this is my personal experience of certain mental turmoil, and I still do that. I still connect the dots to the consequences if I go out of this, and this is bad, and I think everyone needs to come out of this.
Pradna, I can totally relate to whatever you're saying. Even I have had such experiences when I'm going to temple or I'm steaming food inside. But before doing any of these things, I need to have this battle with myself. I need to have this talk with myself where I have to counsel myself that, okay, whatever you're doing it right. And whatever be the consequences, I need to be ready to face it, right? Because it has been my decision, and I'm proud that I took that decision. Because even it's wrong, even if it's right, it would be mine, and not because someone else told me to do so. So I think I'm super proud of these, and I'm super proud of you as well, and proud of everyone who is taking this step, taking one step further.
We are medical students, like 3 medical students having this discussion. So how has periods personally affected your journey in medicine, or what are the challenges that you face while in medical school, while you go through this process? Puralvika, can we hear from you?
For me, like being on menstruation, I face terrible cramps, especially on my first and second days. So some days, some months, I have such a terrible cramp that I, don't even go to classes and miss most of my morning classes. I just stay in bed with a hot water bag, and I think it's common among girls, because the hot water bag that I use is mostly passed around, and I see so many girls like not being able to go to classes because of their cramps. I have faced the physical cramps thing.
And in hostel, like Puralvika said, we have this circling of hot water bags, and I is as you said, Puralvika, like even I do have severe cramps, and I find it so distressing at times. When we're talking about celebrating womanhood and celebrating period, I sometimes gets confused. Like I start, I complain a lot about this, because this is something that I have to go, right, at these physical pain and these mental issues. So I kind of have to balance, like move back and forth between celebrating and complaining. And for me personally, like third year, after coming to third year, it has been more difficult, because we need to go to clinics, and we need to stand for long hours, and at the same time, when you're having a period and you're bleeding heavily. I do bleed heavily sometimes, like even having to change pad like every hour, or even in certain duration. So I have this constant fear in my head that I might leak, and also that dizziness, that fatigue, and this long hours of standing when you are going through cramps. This is so distressing. And I also remember in these preclinical years, we didn't have clinics, but we had this frequent examination. And the day before, if I have my exam tomorrow and I'm on my period today and I'm going through cramps or this pain, so I used to have this pain relief medications, and sometimes it would be my third or fourth round in a single day because I had to read for the next day's assessment. So it kind of puts you at pressure, like you have to perform good in cost of your health. So that's the thing. And I think we talk a lot about women empowerment, right? And how we have to be treated equally like men, and I think that also puts us at a greater pressure because we don't want to we don't want to take the day off because in that day we might be proving someone else that we are not productive as we are trying to sow. So I don't know if I'm making sense, but can someone add on this?
Yeah, right, Monica. The mental battle that we have between like talking about women empowerment and being strong and being crippled down by your cramps that happen in your stomach. That is my personal experiences too. And there have been times where I have returned from the clinics midway between my classes, just returned back to my hostel in Brest, and I've taken help from someone in the hospital to transport me because it was too much for me to stand on the medical rounds. So this is something that we experience. But something that we need to point out here is when we are discussing about this is I don't know why we feel the pressure to compete in a system which is so grueling that it does not take into consideration something so normal for us. And I think that sometimes a system kind of takes shape just by the viewpoint of someone who's actually creating that system, and judging by the fact that many women perspectives were not represented into it. So I think that is the reciprocation of what happens here. And there is an issue of this 2-day leave which women have recently demanded, and this is going on. So I don't know that. I think it's pretty normal to ask this 2-day leave because judging by the fact that there is severe cramps that's happening, and I think this should be taken consideration into each and every system that goes into it, and we need to make it more women friendly. But I would also like to ask both of you guys, I would want to hear your perspective on this. And my question is, how likely would our periods affect the subspecialty or the specialty that we choose? Like, has that thought ever crossed your mind as a medical student that maybe choosing a specialty would be affected by my periods? Because I would like to mention a small history here, and I think this is something that happens to all of us. And I would like to pay my ode to Mary Jacobi, and she was a female physician during the 19th and 20th century when all of these myths about period were coming forward, that women secrete menotoxin while during their periods, and that if they touch a crop field then it will run dry, and whether if we touch a plant it might die. So it was so scientifically convinced, like menotoxin being released out. And I had recently read a TED talk. I had recently listened to a TED talk which stated that if we are full of menotoxin inside, then embryos must be bathing in that menotoxin. And I found it very hilarious when that was said. So I wanted to tell something about how menstruation has shaped the history of medicine, or what are the pertinent points that were discussed in our history regarding our menstruation in this medical fraternity. So I had this interesting read while researching for the podcast where with a curiosity I started thinking like, how has periods impacted the history of medicine? And there was actually a book that was published by Edward Clark, which showed that girls' health and strength was affected by their periods. So that if they kind of worked in their periods, or or if they tried to do some mental work, then that would ruin their mind. That would wreak havoc in the chemicals, and they would not be fit to do all the other things that happen after periods. And girls were not strong enough to pursue their higher education in their period. So this was the thought with which medicine started. And Mary Jacobi was someone who scientifically debated this fact and said that it was activity and not rest that actually could relieve us from this mental turmoil that we go through during our periods. So staying inactive and resting was not the option, but grueling and talking about things or going in the day-to-day lives, unless it's severely debilitating, that would be a better approach to having periods. But women were actually restricted from going to colleges or practicing medicine while they were on their periods, and all women were advised to stay at home. So what do you guys have to say on this?
Like you said, Pratna, the dizziness of our menstruation affecting the speciality we choose in our future. About that topic, maybe like specialities like surgery, which requires long standing, we might think we not be able to do it because we have like cramps and we'll not be able to stand for so long. But we're not the first females trying for specialties like that, you know. There are already females doing it despite their menstruation. Obviously, they bleed too. So I think, like you said, researching on how to overcome our physical cramps by exercising or taking medicines. I think we need to focus on that part instead of just, thinking that no, we can't do it because we'll have to stand for a long time and we have cramps. I think we need to focus on ways to find out how to deal with it because people, females out there are doing it. And if they can, why can't we? You know?
I also have similar opinion on this. And before you raised this issue about this menstruation might affect our choice of spatiality, I hadn't really thought about it before. And after you said this, I've been thinking, but I have not been able to contemplate anything. So I think, as Pearlvika said, like this should not be our barrier to choosing any speciality. We have to be open about this. But having said this, also connecting the leave thing that you talked before, what I want to add is I don't think that it's so mandatory to take leave. But if you're going through some serious like problem, you're having this debilitating health issue, then you need to take leave. Because if you are taking leave when you're having a fever or when you're going through some other health problem, then you can obviously ask for a leave when you feel the need to, even during your period. So I think we have to take it something as the individual call, rather than making it like every woman would need 2 days leave in a month, or that women would not pursue careers like surgery and things just because she might not be able to dedicate her full time.
So yeah, that's very correct, and I'm so happy that, and I strongly believe that our choice of anything should not be stopped by our certain physical restraints or certain societal restraints, but we should be able to pursue anything that we want to, and definitely we can. And I would like to see many of us doing that in the future too. But we also need to keep in mind that we need to create an environment around that is too considerate of what is happening to us. We should not be too harsh on ourselves too, that even when we pursue a profession which might be considered challenging, we need to have that understanding and compassionate environment which takes into account what women go through during their period. And regardless of that, I feel that that environment should be shaped in such a way that it is so friendly to each and every one of us and so inclusive that in the generations to come, this might not be something that might limit someone from pursuing what they want to do. And judging by the fact that this might be a limiting factor to us, it's pretty sad, and it shows that something's wrong, or something that has been formed has not taken into consideration so many aspects that need to be taken into account.
Like Pratna said, we need to have a considerate environment, and it even implies in this COVID-19 situation. There are PPEs, but they're designed in such a way that they're only more suitable for men, because there was an article where a female, while she was on her PP, it was her period. She just happened to have her period, and she was in a complete dilemma, to change the PPE and put a pad on, and again go to the OPD, or just stay in the PPE, so that it wouldn't go to waste. She had that dilemma, and
So, yes, this issue is not talked about much. Like, how might a health worker in her PPE going through her periods might have felt? And it has been so well portrayed in the article that Puralvika has talked about. And this issue is also being raised in Nepal, where a midwife from Bake was forced midway to leave her duty and go home just because of the fact that she started bleeding in her PP and it was too uncomfortable for her. So this issue was being raised about including sanitary pads in the PPE. And I think this is something which we need to consider too. And we need to make our PPEs more women friendly, because when a woman is going through these periods, we need to understand that the pandemic is temporary, but periods are permanent. So this is a slogan that has been going around, and we need to shape our world into something which is more friendly to our physiology too, and it should not be so harsh and so grueling for us during these times. And this is something which needs to be dealt with more of a compassion and more help and more understanding and empathy from all around the world and each and every field. I think this should not be a thing of discussion, but this should be a thing of celebration that should happen. And I think that this discussion we are having right now, maybe this is something that our future generations 50 years down the line might not even have to consider. So I think we need to pray for that world.
So we are almost at the end of this session, and we had a fun time sharing our experiences and talking about so many issues. And I'm really glad that we had this discussion, because this might be igniting thing for many people to have another discussion, and then another, and this chain might go on. And as I said earlier, our generation can definitely work as a focal point to break this chain of conditioning. And as Prashna said, I really do believe that down the line, our future generation won't even have to consider talking about this. So lastly, I cannot end this session without thanking Puralvika, because of all the efforts she put to make this coming real. So Puralvika, is there anything you want to add at last?
I'm more thankful to you both, Manita. I've learned a lot of things from you guys, and I have this belief now that our anxieties about these various menstrual stigmas will be overcome soon enough. And we just have to understand that yes, these issues will be overcome one step at a time, but we also have to understand that just because you completed a few steps, you do not mean you have reached your destination. We need to keep walking and keep taking little steps like these until the menstrual stigma has vanished from every female's life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Puralvika. Thank you for coming. Bye, guys. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
We'll meet soon.